Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
All right, Brad. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
All right, Evan. Happy Sunday.
Thank you.
How you guys doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
One of your eyes is falling out of your head. How are you good?
Well, I mean, other than that, that's a late breaking development as of 30 seconds ago.
My dog is going through like that shed when there's a big heat wave, but inside is air conditioned, so their bodies just get confused and just expel their undercoat.
Yeah.
But it only lasts like 8 months, so it should clear soon.
Yeah, it's great. I love it so much.
Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Lots to talk about in the world of hockey. Some stuff with the Red Wings. I'm sure we're going to have a healthy fight soon and everything else. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, like I mentioned, there is some Red Wings news, an AHL signing that might be of interest to people, some more clarification on Sebastian Cossa, some fun news for Mickey Redmond, celebration of his career's work, and then Jeff Petry's name unexpectedly came up in trade rumors. So he has been linked to the Red Wings. So we will talk about the virtues or lack thereof of trading for Jeff Petry and his contract from the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to be doing a prospect profile that needs to be revisited because we talked about this player early on. And as we're getting really close to the draft here, we need to kind of see where people sit on him. So that's he's a very popular player, Brad Lambert, among some and not so much on others. So we'll see where we all land. And then we'll get to some NHL news, including the Cup Finals. Colorado involved in another 7-0 game, this time on the other end of it. I bet they feel happy. And everything else going on there. We'll take a look at some FanDuel odds, and then we will get started. Before we do that, want to let you know that Tuesday, the Calder Trophy will be announced, which means a lot of Wings money on the board. Donations will be triggered, which means we will hopefully hit our $30,000 stretch goal for the Jamie Daniels Foundation. So if you are interested, check out the Wings Money on the Board post on wingedwheelpodcast.com/blog to find out how you can join in the fun. And after the Calder Trophy is announced and those donations are made, we'll start to look at the awards and giveaways and things for the season-long campaign. So thank you to all of you who have already donated, to our good friend Prashant Iyer for running Wings Money on the Board with us this season. And let's see if we can hit that stretch goal. Okay. Sebastian Cossa. I got a question about Sebastian Cossa after we talked about him last episode.
You have a question, or you received one from someone?
I received a question from someone.
Okay.
And we were talking about Sebastian Cossa and whether he'd go to the AHL next season. And they said, you guys are speaking so confidently, but per the AHL, CHL rules, I don't really see how he would fit, how he would be eligible, because you'd either need to play 4 seasons or be 20 years old. And I stupidly had not had a coffee yet. And it was really dumb because we had this conversation in the group chat a long time ago. And I said, it was like, oh, it's because he played 4 seasons in the CHL and that's why he's eligible. He hasn't. It's 3. What it is if you are 20 years old at any point in the year where you'd be starting in the AHL, you're eligible. So he turns 20 in November of this year. So he could technically go play in the AHL. So it's not a guarantee. He could go back to the CHL.
Yeah, he was a late birthday when the Red Wings drafted him, I believe. So.
Yeah, so that is how Sebastian Cossa is eligible. So in case any of you were wondering, that's if they do choose to send him there, then that's why. Or they can just loan him back to the WHL and that whole business. Mickey Redmond, open a ginger ale, inducted into the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame.
I was surprised it hadn't happened yet.
I honestly would have assumed it already.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah,
that was my first thought when I saw that. I'm like, wait. Now?
I know. Yeah. Someone was like, if you had the flannels out, this would have been a great time. And trust me, I want to. It's shipping and borders and customs and sourcing and production errors and getting them reproduced. It's in the process. Most of them, like 90% of them, are in my house right now. You guys, have you seen all those boxes?
No.
Oh, well, they're there. I could be lying to you. Okay. And Kirill the real Kirill Tyutyayev has signed a 1-year AHL deal with the Grand Rapids Griffins. So for those of you who have been wondering what the deal is with Kirill, he is coming back. So you'll see him on the Griffins, and hopefully he does well and can avoid injury and kind of stay on track over there.
Hopefully he can stay healthy. Step one.
That's the biggest thing. Like, skill isn't really a question, but if you can't stay healthy, then that's different. So hopefully he can stay healthy and at the very least be a fun watch for the Griffins. Okay. Jeff Petry. And can I tell a quick story about this?
Is it about his dad playing for the Tigers?
No.
Then yes, you can.
We'll get to that. You guys are jerks for not breaking the ice on this. You're going to make me seem like a self-important asshole here. But over the weekend, my better half Mel was stupid enough to agree to marry me. And in the build up to that entire process, like the whole day, everything around that, where obviously you're just like dialed in and making sure that you get the right words out of your mouth in the right order and trying not to spoil a surprise, even though she's way smarter than me and caught on. I was 1,000% certain that Steve Yzerman was going to announce the coach during that time. Like I would have absolutely put money down on it. I was like, oh my God, you just know. And like, that's that, right? If that happens, I'm not like, that's not for me. I can't cover it. It's just how it's going to shake out. And I look at my phone like 3 hours later and I see you tweet something and we get like a bunch of mentions on the podcast account. And I went, oh my God, Steve. But it turned out to be the Jeff Petry thing. So thankfully it was just a little trade rumor, one that I was happy to see float by. But for any of our friends over at the Red Wings, please tell Steve I said thank you for not doing it in that window of like 4 or 5 hours there on Friday.
Well, two things. One, I'm not ever going to spoil your news on here because I don't know if you want everything about your life public, so I'll never.
I put it on Twitter.
Okay. Yeah. I don't follow you. And two, I'm happy that my off-season break from Twitter, where I tweet so infrequently that when I even tweet about the smallest things, it registers on your radar is a thing.
Yeah, you cause me anxiety even when things should be relaxed. So that's where you sit in my life right now.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, so good news. Our landlord, the owner of the Winged Wheel podcast studio, is now stuck with us.
It's now half hours.
What a dummy. She could have milked us for all we were worth.
The plan is coming together perfectly.
Yeah. The long con, it only took a very long time.
Yeah, you really milked that one, huh?
Listen. Okay, what is it?
I damn near went for a record timeline from time Crystal and I started dating to time we got engaged. But I had the excuse of she was 15 when we started dating. So I had like a 7-year grace period where it didn't really count. Yeah, you didn't have that.
So I put it in I put it in our group chat, and immediately it was finally. And I put it in the group chat with Max and Prashant, and immediately Prashant said finally. And I was like, okay, yeah, I get it, guys. Frankly, I had to catch her at a good time where she was stupid enough to say yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you had to wait till the Stockholm syndrome was fully set in.
And even then, I had to hit her with Melissa Who Wants to Marry Me says what? And so legally now, and I did call no take back, so that's that.
That's how that works.
Let's see, whenever I don't know when the wedding is.
The lining of super glue on the inside of the ring was a nice touch.
Yeah, the timing of that was very difficult. It almost got stuck in my pocket. But eventually, you schmucks are going to have to come to a wedding. So, yeah.
Open bar?
More?
Yes.
Then I'm
please. Yeah. Okay, Jeff Petry. Jeff Petry, the Montreal Canadiens are looking to offload his contract for obvious reasons. Makes, what is it, $6.25 million for the next 3 seasons. And they're trying to do a few things. Clear cap space, and are they trying to tank like nuts next year? I don't know.
I mean, Shane Wright, Connor Bedard's not a bad start to a rebuild.
Yeah, not to mention Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield.
Yeah.
So it's okay, but they want to move on from Jeff Petry, and it looks like there's some interest from teams as to bring him on as, you know, a viable defender, not as it doesn't sound like Montreal's interest in cap dumping him at all. So the Red Wings were listed as a team who was in on him. Pierre LeBrun on Insider Trading said there's no question a Jeff Petry trade is something that the Habs are working on. It's not guaranteed it'll happen, but there's certainly some effort being done on that front. The Dallas Stars are a team that has some interest, especially if they can't re-sign John Klingberg. I'm also told that Detroit is a potential destination. 5 or 6 teams have talked to Montreal. So, Dallas is looking to replace Klingberg. Detroit would be looking to bring him in. He would immediately be one of their best defenders, kind of on a Nick Leddy type contract or a Nick Leddy type situation where you bring him in with the option of shipping him out if you are looking to add more assets in the future, or as a steadying presence to shore up the blue line. Anyhow, thoughts initially on the concept of trading for Jeff Petry?
No, absolutely not. So I'll establish it by saying I like Jeff Petry as a player, and I feel like he has been, outside of, Montreal hockey circles, pretty underrated through the bulk of his career because he was a legitimately great top 4 defenseman. He's not old. He's only 34, and that's not old.
Dust and bones.
Yeah, may as well be.
Ancient history.
He's only 34. That's the prime right there. But he took a pretty significant step back this year in terms of everything: defensive play, offensive production, whatever you want to look at. Now, a lot of that might coincide with, the team taking a nosedive. So did the team nosedive because of Petry, or did Petry nosedive because of the team? Who's to say for sure? Probably more of the team than Petry himself. That all being said, a 35-year-old's production drops off a cliff and his overall play regresses. Not a good indicator of someone who's going to bounce back. I don't think 35-year-old Jeff Petry is going to be a drastic improvement from 34-year-old Jeff Petry. Should he improve from this year? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But he was a far cry from a $6.25 million player, so even some improvement is not going to be a $6.25 million player. Even beyond that, it's 3 more years. So I know you brought up Nick Leddy. That's not an option here. If he comes in and he is anything less than exceptional, that contract's unmovable. You are betting that he comes in, a 34-year-old comes in who will turn 35 early in the season, bouncing back. I get the appeal of Jeff Petry, the hockey player. I fully understand it. And I don't think he's as bad as he was last year. But at 35, that's not a gamble I'm willing to make. And with that contract, that's an absolute no for me. The only way this trade happens is if Montreal is basically giving him away at half retained, or, well, that's the only way. Or unless there's a hefty sweetener to take on the full contract, and I mean significant sweetener.
He hasn't been the same since he looked like a zombie.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, I disagree. And my initial reaction was woof, because Jeff Petry had a rough season. But then I looked at his splits pre and post Dom Ducharme.
Yeah, that's fair.
A lot of players pretty openly didn't like what Dom Ducharme was doing, and Petry was at the forefront of that. He was fantastic under Marty St. Louis. Awful under Ducharme, fantastic under Marty St. Louis. There was some mention of, he's working through some injury stuff, both in the background and more apparent to fans.
His hunger for flesh.
Yeah. He thrives at full moons and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't discount what Brad just said. So I pretty much disagreed with what you said. Petry is a way better player than people are giving him credit for right now.
Agreed.
And you're right. He is coming up on an age cliff going against someone who is undefeated, which is Father Time. But I don't think Jeff Petry's game, it might be wishful thinking, but I think Jeff Petry's game can hold on in a way that can be make an appreciable difference for the Red Wings. At $6.25 million, you're absolutely right. That is painful. For 3 more seasons, that's painful. If the Montreal Canadiens want to retain a little bit, that would make it a lot better. I don't get the impression that the Canadiens want to do that much, if at all. But if they are giving him away, this is how I see it. The Red Wings have Seider, Hronek, and Lindstrom or whoever. Hronek's play has been off and on. Yeah, he has produced. But Petry would be pretty much tied with him for second pairing right-handed defenseman right now. They bring him in. They have a cap floor to reach. He does make this team better. And then with their infinite cap space, if he comes back and he's on decent enough form, they can ship him out, because they shipped out a Nicoletti who's playing, other than like the 2 weeks before the trade deadline, pretty terrible hockey all year. And I think they could get something for Jeff Petry. 6 points.
When? That's the question. So when?
Could be in a year, could be in 2 years, but you would hope that maybe his game doesn't drop off a cliff so much. You shelter his minutes a little bit. He's not going to be playing Moritz Seider minutes. He'll be playing second, 3, 4, 5 number D minutes, right? So if Montreal, I'm not giving up significant assets for him. You would first want Montreal to retain. Assuming they don't want to, then you would essentially want him free. I can see a world where that is a benefit for Detroit. It would take some navigating, and it would take like a world-class GM, which the Red Wings are fortunate enough to have.
So the way I look at this, what's the upside and what's the ultimate downside? The upside is Petry comes in and you've got the Petry of, 2-3 years ago. Again, as unlikely as I think that is, but it could happen. Especially like you said with the splits, which is a good point, between first half and second half of the season. Are the Red Wings going to be contenders in that 3-year window? No. So you get a good defenseman to help mentor, and he'd be there for hopefully a couple playoff runs. I do think Jeff Petry would help the Red Wings get to the playoffs as long as his contract isn't inhibiting them from doing other things on the roster that they want to do, which with the current situation they're in, I don't think it would, unless Stevie decides to go big game hunting in a year or two. But he's probably not going to be a rental, because you can probably move him in year 2 or 3 of this contract with half retained. Well, if you're bringing in Jeff Petry, you're hoping you're in the playoffs those 2 years, because you're not bringing in Jeff Petry to continue rebuilding for 3 years. You're not bringing in a $6.2 million contract to rebuild for 3 more years. You are hoping you're getting 2 playoffs out of Jeff Petry. So he's probably not someone you move unless shit goes really off the rails, in which case it was a bad move. And you're not going to be able to trade him because he's gone terribly. But the downside here is huge. Like if it turns out, hey, Father Time is a thing and he's just not what he used to be, and you're saddled with the full cap hit. So now you have a contract you can't move, and you're going to get no appreciable assets. And, not that you can always send them down. So I don't really care about taking up a roster spot, but I see very limited upside here, despite how good of a player I think Jeff Petry is and could be still. And I see a massive downside if it doesn't go well. Now, obviously, if it happens, you take the optimistic approach and be like, okay, well, we're going for the playoffs in a year or two. So here we go. Let's have some fun. But marginal upside, tremendous downside into how this could play out.
The other thing that I was thinking about was he had 2 different seasons under 2 different coaches. The Red Wings don't even have a head coach right now. Yeah, so
that's a good point.
If a guy's going to be Jekyll and Hyde with coaches, maybe you should figure out how your coach would gel with a player like him.
Yeah, I don't know. Dom Ducharme kind of universally sucked.
Oh, he was terrible. Yeah. Oh, that's for sure. You could put a microwave behind the bench and it would have been better.
Yeah, they took a literal blindfold off Cole Caulfield, and all of a sudden he started scoring goals. Like, Dom Ducharme might be the reason why Moritz Seider didn't have more competition for the Calder Trophy.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, I think the upside is a little bit more here. Let's look at the worst case scenario. Petry falls off a cliff, and is pretty rough, and is like playing, let's say, at best Mark Stahl level hockey. Half retained in that last year, you will still get something for Jeff Petry. Guaranteed. GMs go off name basis.
Yeah, I'm not looking at the worst case scenario from the standpoint of
trading assets.
Like trading assets. I'm talking about
performance.
Exactly. If you're bringing in a Jeff Petry, the trade assets don't matter. This guy better be contributing in a playoff series for you in a meaningful way. You don't bring in a guy like Jeff Petry at that contract unless you are serious about getting better reasonably fast.
Okay, ignore the contract for a second, which is a heinous thing to say in the cap world, but ignore it for a second. The Red Wings need more than they had this year on the blue line.
I agree.
They need players who can just, Seider cannot be playing with Osterley, and I get that Petry won't slot in next to Seider, but there needs to be more veteran presence. There needs to be more leadership. You need essentially what Mark Stahl did, but from a more capable player, which is, I think Petry could do. I'm not sitting here saying, yeah, absolutely go trade for Jeff Petry. I'm just saying I can see why they could bring him in and say, we need this guy on our team, and it won't be necessarily with the thought of we're making the playoffs next year.
Without looking up comparables in my head, which is a lazy argument, but it's all I can do right now.
That's all I do.
Yeah. There is almost certainly a player or multiple players in the NHL who are either free agents or under contract with teams that you could get for far less money who will contribute about the same or something reasonable. If you could get someone who's 80% of Jeff Petry for $2.5 million, that is a much better option for the Detroit Red Wings.
What about
right
John Klingberg?
Yeah.
He's not going to cost $2.5 million.
We want to talk about bad contracts, but you go find, I know he shoots left, but someone like an Ian Cole who will definitely have Mark Stahl plus impact, but is going to come in for under $3 million. The Red Wings are in a better position to do something like that, who will very much make the team better and is going to very much be an upgrade on whoever he replaces in the lineup, but isn't coming with 3 years at $6.25 million in his mid 30s.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not against the idea of Jeff Petry or someone like Jeff Petry. I actually am very in favor of it. I am very against that combination of age and contract, because if he comes in and he is worthwhile for 3 years at $6 million at his age, he is the extreme outlier to players in his situation.
What if they bring Nick Leddy back?
We've seen that one not work, and he wasn't exactly a revelation when he got to St. Louis.
I think the crux of this is, what is Montreal willing to do? Because what we're hearing is initial phases, right? Like Kent Hughes is putting, like, there's a lot of this is coming from Montreal, and they're putting out like a big tough man, stance publicly to other teams to say, hey, Jeff Petry is available, but we're not just going to be giving him away. And you know what? Teams might say, okay, I'm willing to give you a middling asset, something that Jeff Petry is not worth Jeff Petry, but with the contract, that's what you're going to get. But if there aren't any bites, it's, again, I'm sorry to do this, but I'm going to compare it to the housing market. Eventually, you're going to have to drop the price. It's not always how it shakes out, but we'll see if Montreal gives. Maybe they start to retain. They say, okay, yeah, we'll retain $1 million. We'll retain 1.5 for the next 3 years. Then that makes it a little sweeter. Or we'll package a third-round pick with it. Then that
You're
makes it a
also
little
talking
sweeter.
about trying to move up in this year's draft.
Which is, I think that's kind of baller, but focus on next year, man. Just suck for another year.
No, I love that move. They have guys who have value now, and they have teams like New Jersey and Philly who might be willing to move, like picks 2 and 5. Can you imagine your Montreal walking away with Shane Wright and Juraj Slafkovsky?
Yeah, that's not bad.
I don't know if they have quite the ammo to pull it off, but holy hell, do I love the mentality of it.
I like when GMs, do something cool. Like they shoot from the hip and try and do something different.
The most baller draft move of all time was when Brian Burke went up and got the Sedins. Hell yeah. More of that. Not to Montreal because they're in our division and I hate them, and not them specifically, but let's get weird.
We need more twins at the top of the draft. Just make GMs be weird. That's a thing. Like, NHL GMs and hockey teams are inherently unfun. Like, they just don't do crazy stuff like that. But they also are very big on like familial ties and the brotherhood. So they'll be like, well, they're brothers. Have to have them both.
What do you think the reaction would be if Kent Hughes drafts Jack Hughes?
Fantastic. Everyone, that'll be
Twitter. It'll be the most controversy we've ever seen for a second round pick.
Do you think, would you go up there if you're Kent Hughes? Would you go up there?
Oh, you'd have to.
I don't know.
If he's up there for every other pick, it would look worse if that's the one he doesn't. If you see them walking up without him for the first time with their billion picks, you know who they're taking.
I don't know. I think that'd be funny if he didn't go up there. He just had some like random, third tier scout slappy go up and announce it. Just as like a dig to his kid. But no, any dad would go up there and be elated to draft his son. But yeah, I don't know. I think we need to know more about what Montreal is looking for here. I think there could be benefit to Detroit. Brad, you did make some really good points. And honestly, Evan, the Red Wings need to figure out who their coach is. Maybe
start at the top and work our way down to everybody else.
Yeah. It's now fair game to announce the coach. We even made it past the weekend where I believe Max is at a wedding. So we're in the home stretch here. It's got to be coming soon. You would think within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've got my alternate shot match play tomorrow. That would be a perfect time for them to do it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for your sacrifice. I appreciate that.
I have nothing coming up. This is my fault. I'm not going to be on the 401 as far as I can tell anytime soon.
You got to start just taking some drives.
I'll just go buy some Jays tickets or something just to get it out of the way.
Yeah. Get stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
Let your battery get down to like 30%.
I'll pick like the worst possible like game time, like a Friday night game. So I have to deal with like 4 p.m. Toronto traffic.
Yeah.
That's when it had happened.
You're going to see my name pop up on your phone and then time's going to slow down and music's going to start playing just as tradition goes.
So it's going to be Running Up That Hill. Kate Bush going to come on the radio at that exact time.
And now Evan's rendition of Running Up That Hill.
Is that the Stranger Things song?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you 3 words from it, even though I've watched the whole thing.
I think you can get 3 words.
Running up
that hill.
That's not
He
3.
almost didn't make it
It's
through.
more than 3.
Yeah.
You had 3.
I said 3, not more than 3.
Okay, well, we're going to move on. But before we do that, I'm going to tell you that this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast is proudly brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, a sponsor that gives hockey fans what we really need, even more excitement in the game. There's so many reasons why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. They are simple to use with great odds on different betting markets, giving you more action every game day. Plus, they're tons of fun with unique bet types like same game parlay and exclusive promos on the biggest events. Plus, when you win, you get your winnings back safely in as little as 24 hours. Now listen to this. FanDuel is letting you place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Just place a bet on any game and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win that first bet. If you win, you keep the cash. If you lose, you get up to $1,000 back in site credit. Now, what we want you to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to get started with that promo and be sure to sign up with promo code WWP so they know the Winged Wheel Podcast sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code WWP. You must be 21 and older and present in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, West Virginia, Indiana, Colorado, Iowa, Tennessee, Virginia, or Michigan. First online real money wager only. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, or Virginia, Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789, 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-270-7117 in Michigan. All right, it's about time we talk about Brad Lambert again. And I was really hoping by this point in the scouting process, I'd have more kind of solid direction on Brad Lambert. A lot of people whose opinions we know and trust and love to take in and who we talk with on this podcast, Tony Ferrari, Will Scout from Scouching, many others, they really like Brad Lambert. But there's in my mind, a certain amount of risk that comes with him where we need to kind of assess where does he really fall compared to who else is available at 8, and what's your move here if you're Steve Yzerman? So let's do a Brad Lambert revisited. Where is he now compared to where he was before, and where do you have him in your own internal rankings?
So I have this like very large tier of prospects outside of the top 5 in a group that I kind of have labeled in my head as I'm not mad if the Red Wings take him. If they take them, and it's a group of like 10 or 11 players. Brad Lambert's at the very bottom of that list. So he's in there, but he's, of all of the options, probably my least desirable right now because, again, like I was just talking about if you like the concept of a Jeff Petry on the Red Wings, I understand that you like the concept of a Brad Lambert on the Red Wings. Well, if you like the concept of a Brad Lambert, you have Matt Savoie and Frank Nazar, but they're actually producing. And they actually have a long track record of producing. And they don't have all these questions around them that Lambert does. And they're the same type of player with similar skill sets. And in some ways, I actually think Savoie and Nazar have him beat in certain skills, individually, of course. So I don't know.
Can we glue Savoie and Nazar together? That'd be really great.
That'd be a hell of a player.
Yeah.
Like on their shoulders, though, they need to be taller.
Yeah, but then they're going first overall.
Yeah. So I'm not out on Brad Lambert, but I've really come down on him. If you were frustrated by Philip Zadina this year, you probably shouldn't be banging the table for Lambert at this point. I'll put it that way.
Not because of play style, but because of issues.
You see a good player that doesn't produce.
Yeah.
And you can't fully figure out why. And then you get more frustrated because you can't fully figure out why. And that's kind of where I'm at with Lambert, because, again, he's an overager for this draft, like a late birthday, I should say, not an overager.
Very late birthday.
So he's had an extra year of opportunity to prove, yeah, I can put up numbers consistently, and he still hasn't. So if you're a high skill forward, it's your job to score, because Brad Lambert's not that guy. If he doesn't hit, you can plug him in and he can, kill some penalties and play on your third or fourth line. He ain't that guy. He's not that dude. If you're drafting Brad Lambert, he has to score. That's the reality of it. So I don't know. Like I said, I get it, but he's been sliding the wrong way on my board the whole year.
It's a little frustrating to watch Brad Lambert because, especially if you see like a highlight package, you're like, oh my God, why is this guy not even being considered in the top 5, top 3 even? So skilled. His skating is phenomenal. His puck skills are phenomenal. And the way he's able to kind of work the game dynamically, you see, the way he's able to fire a pass or score on, if you can get a highlight package where he's scoring a lot, but then you watch like a full game and you watch his play off the puck a little bit and you look at his production, you kind of look at how he's been moving across leagues and things like that. A lot of what you said, Brad, is there. Like, yeah, Philip Zadina, not the same kind of player, but you watch a player who's doing a lot of things right but can't produce. And if that's already happening for Brad Lambert at this level, something is off. It could be a lot of like just tough situations. He's played on crappy teams or, didn't get the ice time or, whatever it might be, one justification or excuse or whatever after another. But at 8th overall, when you're going to have a Matt Savoie on the board, when you're going to have a Frank Nazar on the board, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it scares you away from that pick. I'm with you. I'm not out. I think I'm even further back from you, though. I'm pretty close to being out. It's not the end of the world if the Red Wings draft Lambert. They're drafting genuinely one of the most raw, talented players in the draft if they take him. But a lot needs to start to make sense immediately after drafting. And let me tell you, if it was making sense now, we'd be talking about Brad Lambert not even making it past pick 3 or 4.
Yeah, and again, if you're sold on that type of player, like if you even want to narrow it all the way down to I just want a small skilled forward who's like fast, got hands, and can score, let's assume the top 5 goes as expected, right? Slavkovsky, Cooley, Nemec, Jiricek. So then you've got 2 more picks to get through before Detroit, and you will still have Savoie, Nazar, Lekaramaki, Kamel, Lambert. 3 of them are still going to be sitting there, and if Lambert's one of those 3, at least 2 of them are going to have a really good track record of production. So, again, you can like the guy, but I have a hard time justifying picking one of these other guys, like picking Brad Lambert over one of these other guys with, relatively similar profiles and relatively similar skill sets, albeit, some playmaking specialists, some shooting specialists, what have you. And that's not even counting in okay, well, now we mix in the guys with size. You have Cutter Gauthier there. You have Connor Geeky. Like, it's hard to justify him over these guys just because of the fact that he hasn't been able to put it together for many years now. And again, you said there could be circumstance, bad line mates, no ice time, bad team. But man, those excuses are starting to pile up on each other.
Yeah.
There's lots of guys who play on bad teams and have bad teammates, and then they still produce and still look like a bona fide top 10 pick.
It's Evan on every beer league team he's ever played on.
That's right.
It's tough because I don't think it's unfair to say he's probably one of the best, if not the best skater in the draft. And it's tough because you saw his fall from grace where he was poised to be potentially the first overall pick, or like fighting with Shane Wright for potentially the first overall pick this year in his years approaching his draft season. You know where I would love to take Brad Lambert? Pick 16. That 14 to 16 range where, yeah, Savoie didn't fall all the way to you, or you really wanted, one of the defensemen, or all the centermen are gone, like all the other centermen are gone, and Cutter Gauthier is not there because his stock got too high close to the draft. That's when you take Lambert. it's not that there's never a sense, like, you can't let a player this skilled fall that far in the draft. But again, you know, you want someone fast with offensive ability who could play center. Yeah, that's Frank Nazar. Matt Savoie checks a lot of boxes that Lambert does on the ice. To the same degree and in the exact same way, no. But, you know, if I'm the Red Wings and you're looking at Lambert, where you're like, if all things go well, but you factor in the risk and we still hit on this guy, maybe he's a top 6 winger. Okay, what about Cutter Gauthier, where you're like, maybe he's a top 6 center? This is more of a profile on Brad Lambert as a Red Wings pick. And yeah, I can't help but think that this is one where, you know, a lot of people are going to look stupid for doubting him. But at the same time, it would have to be a way more sparse draft for me to be like banging the drum and banging the table for Brad Lambert.
You really got to grill him at the draft interview.
Yeah,
you got to kind of drill down in your own way to figure out what the hell's going on with this guy. Because like you guys said, if you watched 80% of a highlight clip of him, you'd be like, this guy should be in the top 5, no problem.
He's magical.
He looks like a top 5 pick, but he just doesn't produce. And to me, that is a glaring red flag, because it's not one scenario where he hasn't produced. It's been a history at this point, and you got to do it. Everybody else is doing it except you.
It's like it's as if we created him in a creative player, like play center, super, like a phenomenal skater, the best in the draft.
But then you let the AI play him.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it looks like. Like, this guy looks like he should be a top 5 pick, but if you can't produce, you don't last that long.
Yeah, what was it? 11 points, or across 2 teams in Liga, 49 games, he had 10 points.
That's not good enough. There might be a team who can bet on that, but in a top 10 pick, when there's other guys who are producing in their draft year, I think you got to take a more certain pick than betting on Brad Lambert.
What is the first, like, at what point in the draft would you say, yeah, I'd feel comfortable taking Brad Lambert? Just slide the Red Wings down as far as you want.
Where the Red Wings are picking?
No, like, let's say the Red Wings hypothetically had pick 16 or hypothetically had pick 20. Don't worry about how we got there, but where would you take Brad Lambert?
8 plus 16? Or just they only have 16?
Ignore the context. Like, they only have one.
Well, context is very key when you're drafting a player, because you can either wait or not wait.
Okay, team indeterminate. Where would you draft Brad Lambert comfortably?
If I needed a steady stream of potential pipeline prospects, late teens at the earliest.
You use the word comfortable?
Yeah.
Nowhere. I would not be comfortable drafting Brad Lambert, because I'm not sure he's an NHLer right now. Where do I think the gamble starts to be worth it is late teens, early 20s. I think in that range too, just because there's enough guys that I like that are at least comparatively skilled, that obviously different positions, different styles, that I would take over him, just because there's probably a little more certainty with those guys.
To me, this is how I would phrase the question if I'm interviewing Brad Lambert. I'd say, there's all these guys who play the same position as you and are ranked at these spots, and they produce in their leagues. Why should we be taking you over them? Give me an answer.
Yeah. Or
if it's not good enough, it's all right. Thanks for your time. Good luck.
Or the Steve Yzerman Classic. You smoke pot?
No, maybe you should.
Yeah.
You need to chill out.
Yeah. Okay. You kind of answered this. So we'll start with you, Evan. Let's say Yzerman is only considering Geekie or Lambert. Which would you prefer he drafts?
Geekie.
Lambert, I just don't like Geekie that much.
I know Geekie can produce. It's just not going to be very pretty.
Wow, I'm pretty torn on that one.
I think I'd rather take the swing at a guy who could be a top 6 guy versus a guy I'm pretty confident is going to be a bottom 6 forward.
Oh, you're confident that Geekie's going to be a bottom
I get
6
the,
forward.
like, again, I know I'm using this phrase way too much. I love the idea of Connor Geekie. I just don't see it.
I don't see how Brad Lambert can fix his lack of production in the best league in the world.
It's simple. Just try harder. Just put the puck in the net.
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning Geekie. But I don't know. I think I've just been scared away by a lot of it's not Brad Lambert's fault. Like, again, Sparsa draft, you take the swing. 8th overall isn't equivalent across years, right? 8th overall sometimes is no man's land. It's the same thing as 15. But I'm starting to think it's not insane that Jiricek drops to 8. I'm starting to think it's not insane for Nemec to drop to 8, right? Like, I'm starting to think a lot of really good players might be available there. And at some point you have to assess, I've been given a gift. And it's as if I was drafting 4th or 5th overall, and you got to take it. So, and
there could be some team ahead of Detroit in the draft who absolutely loves Brad Lambert, and he goes like 5th overall.
I would love that,
and that would be the most ridiculous thing a team could do. But we've seen crazy stuff before.
I mean, again, go through the mock draft scenario. The top 5 goes as the top 5 I've laid out before, and then what would be the worst case scenario for Detroit for the next 2 guys to go off the board? Savoie, Gauthier. Then you're still sitting there with Nazar, Lekaramaki, Kemmel, like
Kasper.
Yeah. I mean, all guys that I would take in a heartbeat over Lambert at this point.
Can you pull up elite prospects and like do the show, tell us like what the ranking other sites have them at? You know what I mean?
Oh, buddy, I can get one even quicker than that.
Well, we'll see. The race is on.
All right. So Brad Lambert currently has rankings over several outlets at 8, 14, 27, 30, 14, 8, 20.
Yeah. So late teens roughly sounds like an average.
As high, average, yes. His average of those rankings to this point comes out to exactly 17.29.
I'm a genius.
All right. Well, that's Brad Lambert. I know a lot of you are really big on Brad Lambert, and maybe we came in, a lot lower than what you would have wanted. So let us know in the comments of however you're watching this, how you feel about Brad Lambert and why we're wrong, and why we'll have egg on our face when he inevitably becomes a top 6 center. And we're thinking, oh boy, the Red Wings could have had this guy, and we were advocating to maybe pass over him.
That would be an absolute shock to me.
Yeah. Well,
I would be absolutely shocked.
I would have been absolutely shocked if they took Moritz Seider and he turned out to be the number 1 defenseman. So there we are.
And that doesn't happen all the time. That's why people were shocked.
Yeah, inherently, yes. Yeah, that's how that goes. Okay, let's get into some NHL news, and let's start with the Stanley Cup playoffs. What a start to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and who are those Tampa Bay Lightning that we saw last night?
They look like the Detroit Red Wings.
7-0. I made the joke, Colorado involved in a 7-0 game, as every Red Wings fan should, but genuinely, Colorado dominated every part of that game. All of it. Vasilevsky let in the single most goals that he ever has in his career. I think he's done it one other time maybe, but yeah, 7 is the most he's let in.
So, a quick aside, Steve Dangle figured out why nobody can remember the one game Vasilevsky let in 7 goals.
Was it the same?
It was against Arizona. He gave up a 7 spot on a Saturday night while the Leafs were losing to David Ayers.
I was like, why would Steve be? Oh my God.
It happened on the David Ayers night.
Oh my God.
It's a good night to do it.
If you're ever gonna give up a 7-piece, make it when the Toronto Maple Leafs lose to their own Zamboni driver.
Yeah. Like Vasilevsky gave up a 7 spot to the Coyotes and nobody noticed.
Holy. Yeah. So the Colorado Avalanche have a 2-0 series lead heading into Tampa Bay, and it's no average 2-0 series lead. It is, they just thumped the twice defending Stanley Cup champion for a 7-goal shutout. I'm not going to count Tampa Bay out of this at all. You can't.
Gotta lose at home first.
Yeah, that age-old old hockey man phrase. You're not in trouble till you lose at home.
7.
It's 3-0, then you're really screwed.
And in big trouble.
7-0 still only counts for 1 win.
Yep.
So if Tampa Bay can grind out 2 wins here, then it's a whole new ball game. But as of right now, 2-0. Colorado dominated that puck, dominated that play for 60 minutes. Tampa Bay's in a world of hurt. Is this their toughest test in 3 years?
Since Toronto.
Yes. Yeah. Toronto fans got to be devastated right now. Just in another dimension.
Down Goes Brown had a pretty good summation of this because obviously everybody's trying to figure out what's wrong with Tampa. And, you could say injuries, but obviously Colorado's missing Kadri and et cetera, et cetera. His hypothesis, which is probably the right one, is even though Tampa's won the last 11 series they've played, maybe this is the first series out of those 12 where they're just not the better team.
Yeah,
Colorado is a powerhouse this year and have been all season. The only reason what Colorado is doing right now is surprising is because they're doing it against Tampa Bay.
I'd say Toronto was the better team than Tampa for 90% of that series. They just kind of got Vasilevski'd.
Yeah, I do agree, and I think that's why the Toronto fans' frustrations started before this round, because Tampa had not a cakewalk, but a much easier time after that first round. But yeah, you can't disagree. Like, they've not really run into a test like this as we've seen it so far. Every facet of the game, they are just dominant. And usually with Tampa Bay is even when they're not the better team, and they did this against Toronto, like this is their hallmark. They found a way to win. They eked it out. They held on when there was a barrage against them, and they capitalized on the other team's mistakes. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you were the better team for only 35% of the play. If you have more goals on the board, then that's the W right there. But Colorado didn't even put it within striking distance. Colorado just jumped all over them. And you can say, yeah, tired. You can say, yeah, exhausted, whatever. But yeah, maybe Sean's right. Maybe it's just simply this is the toughest team Tampa Bay had to face. Tampa didn't have the luxury of Vasilevskiy being Vasilevskiy that night, and they got exposed for it.
Yeah.
2 more games in Tampa Bay upcoming. What do you guys see happening?
I don't know what order. I'm predicting these next 2 games get split.
Okay.
It could go 2-1 to 3-1 or 3-0 to 3-1. I don't really care. I feel like Tampa's good enough that they're not going to just fold on home ice, but I think Colorado is also so good they're going to steal one.
I have no idea what Vasilevsky's record is coming off of back-to-back losses or giving up 7, but I can't imagine he's going to do it again. So I think just based on that alone and being at home and getting the home crowd energy, I feel like Tampa's going to win the next one. And then we really got a series, because if Tampa can start to figure out Colorado, it's going to get interesting. But right now, I'm not a betting man on Tampa.
Yeah, Vasilevskiy coming off a loss is probably the best goalie in the NHL you can pick to come off a loss. Like, he's not going to take 7-0 well. You almost want to say, why would you leave him in? Which I think would be a very fair question. I get that it's the playoffs and whatever, but in terms of mental fortitude and the ability to come back and just shake off a loss and dummy the other team and absolutely steal their souls in a game, Vasilevskiy is the hallmark goalie for that. Can he do it against these Colorado Avalanche? That remains to be seen. The best goalie in the world is going to give up stinkers, and the best goalie in the world is going to relinquish a goal or two against a world-class offense. So I think it's not a hot take, because obviously going down 3-0 is near on impossible to come back from, but Tampa needs to win in a big way in game 3. If they split, even if they win game 1 and then it goes 3-1, I don't see them coming back. I don't know that they have it in them.
Especially because they're going back to Colorado.
Yeah.
Unless McKinnon, Makar, and 3 other players get injured on Colorado.
Outside of some devastating thing, yeah. We'll see. All right. Some other small news. Shea Weber traded. Shea Weber's contract traded.
Oh, you are going to enjoy Vegas.
Yeah. Vegas is a good spot for you. Sun, good golf.
Very good golf.
Yeah. You get a good tan.
I don't have that problem.
Someone in the comments the other day, they're like, I just noticed that Evan just looks like slightly darker Shea Weber. Like, yes, this time of year.
Well, welcome.
Jump on
Get on the wagon.
Welcome to the Winged Wheel podcast.
Yeah. So Shea Weber's contract traded to Vegas in exchange for Dadonov. Did you see Anaheim's reply?
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah, which is hysterical. Which is, I think it makes sense for both teams.
He didn't have Montreal on his no trade list.
Guess not.
He probably didn't think Basement Feeder would be a team that's interested in buying.
Or he'll get more minutes there, or like the original sixth thing, or you only have so many teams to add to your no trade list. And if
I thought everybody just did all the Canadian teams basically, and then whoever in the States has highest tax.
he just added Arizona 10 times or whatever it was.
Well, I remember hearing something about he put Anaheim on his no trade. He put all the California teams on his no trade because he didn't want to pay that tax rate. And I can't imagine Quebec's a hell of a lot better. So it's a touch confusing.
Well, we'd have to ask him, but yeah, it makes sense. Long-term injured reserve, or LTIR, as you hear it referred to, is a little complicated and not as simple as people put it out to be. But it makes sense for Vegas because they can now utilize that LTIR space, as they'll be very close, if not at the cap. And the Montreal Canadiens get that dead weight off their roster. They bring in Dadonov, who at $5 million isn't cheap, but is going to make more of an impact than Shea Weber, who is all but retired now. Like, he's not playing hockey anymore. So it makes sense for both teams.
Montreal can trade him for assets too if he has a good season.
I mean, they'd have to retain, I think, how many more years? Oh, it's his last year at $5 million.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they can move him and retain if they want to. Yeah, congrats on your move to Vegas.
Thank you.
John Tortorella finalized as the Philadelphia Flyers head coach.
He had the best soundbite already. He's like, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something about like, we need to be intimidating. We need to be intimidating when we come off the bus, and we need to be intimidating when we take the ice. We need other teams to be afraid of the Philadelphia Flyers. And I was like, oh my God.
This is going to be the best.
I'm ready for this.
I am so happy. One, it's not Detroit. Two, like, you can't handpick a better market for John Tortorella than Philadelphia.
Amazing.
Like, this is a match made in heaven. Like, on ice product to be seen. I still think John Tortorella's a better coach than he gets credit for. I think he's a legitimately good coach. I think Flyers ownership and management is crazy in terms of where they think this team is at and what their plan is going forward.
They think they're buying.
Yeah.
They think they're buying in free agency.
And that means the Flyers are probably going to think they're going to be good this year. Tortorella's going to think they're going to be good this year. It'll probably go off the rails at some point. And could you imagine John Tortorella in Philly driving an 18-wheeler going off the cliff? Like, this is maximum chaos. Like, this is so much better than we could have hoped for.
I don't know what it's going to take, but we need their first round pick next year.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Adam tweeted something at me along the line. Adam Lascaris tweeted something at me along the lines of, Philly is giving off big, they probably shouldn't have traded that first rounder vibes.
Yeah. They're this year's Chicago, maybe.
Yeah.
I know it's easier said than done. And someone was like, who would you even trade? I don't know. You could do a lot of things. But any team who's that erratic and is that desperate to contend when maybe their roster isn't allowing them to do so, I'm not saying it's impossible. We're seeing more and more in hockey where teams make aggressive moves and they can get themselves out of tight cap binds or find value in other places. I don't know that Fletcher's the right guy to do it. We haven't seen a lot of that in the recent past. So.
Hey, he was masterful at keeping Minnesota right on the playoff bubble for
Didn't they trade for Rasmus Ristolainen?
And then gave him a hefty extension.
And Ryan Ellis?
But Ryan Ellis is legitimately good.
He was hurt all year.
Like, I think Philly's...
Well, that's also... You've probably figured that out before you trade for someone.
Philly's better than fifth last. I think they had a lot go against them last year, and I don't think they're truly that awful. I don't think it's by much. I think they're still firmly not a playoff team. I think a phenomenal season for Philly this year, and everything goes right, and Tortorella gets every last bit out of this team, ends up in them getting waxed in the first round.
Yeah, I'm still a big Carter Hart believer too, and he's only he's probably 23, probably. If they do a better job of just not letting him get absolutely walked every game and giving up grade A chances at left, right, and center, that guy could rebound in a big way.
You got to stick around a 23-year-old goalie with big potential.
Yeah.
And who are their two coaches this year? Yo and Vigneault. Mm-hmm. They got absolutely nothing out of Konechny and Provorov and Atkinson and Sanheim.
They're not a bad team.
They're better than...
They're league average when you describe who their players are.
When everything goes right.
Not in personality anymore. They're going to be the top of the league in personality.
Like
now.
I said, I could see Philly being a borderline playoff team this year. Yeah. But like that's their best case scenario.
And in other coaching news, it's been mentioned that Detroit's still kind of sniffing around on Trotz. Like they're still kind of in the mix. He's not, you don't hear their names as the most common. I think he's going back for a second interview or a second conversation with Winnipeg, and that seems to be the most likely fit so far, followed by, Nashville for management. But Detroit's name is still coming up a little bit for Trotz. So for anyone who's hoping for Trotz, don't rule him out for the Red Wings yet. But otherwise, the names that were mentioned are, from Tampa Bay, the assistants, Lalonde and Halpern, or anyone else in that system. So, no movement for Detroit. But if you think that because it's been so long, rule them out on Trotz, wouldn't say do that quite yet. We'll see. Maybe by next episode, we'll have some news, but, that's where we're at with that.
I don't know if this was true, but I heard Chicago is aggressively shopping DeBrincat as well.
That's what I was going to say.
Did we ever talk about that?
I don't know if we can use the word aggressively, but yes.
They're taking offers. They're taking offers on DeBrincat.
I cannot remember how old he is and what he makes.
24, and he's due for a really big qualifying offer soon.
Oh, it's something like their because his cap hits like 4, but his real dollars is like 9.
Yeah, exactly.
The qualifying offer has to be like $9
million. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
$9 million for, and which like it's DeBrincat, right?
He had 40 last year.
Yeah, put up 40.
He could very well be worth 9. Like that is right on the line of is he worth it, which is how his agent did a good job.
Yeah.
Because it's like, is it crazy paying DeBrincat $9 million? No. Is that probably what you want to pay DeBrincat fairly? Probably not.
But when the cap goes up and you have DeBrincat locked in, if you can get him
yeah, he's only like, what, 24?
He is, 20, he'll be 25 at the very end of this year. So he'll start the season 24 years old.
There you go.
I heard someone describe his ability to score goals as he could he just finds his way into scoring goals. Like he just ends up the puck just ends up on his stick at the right time. And that's exactly the type of goal scorer you want. The guy who just like can't not score.
DeBrincat is what we talked about in the past, a guy who can just put the puck in the net. What do you trade if you're trying to trade for DeBrincat? Knowing that you have that qualifying offer coming up, but knowing that's a guy who just put in 40 and is still in the prime and will be for a little while of his athletic career, what do you move for him? Hardest thing to do in hockey is put the puck in the net. So
yeah, Chicago. If you're Detroit, we're talking Detroit specifically. They're not making that deal right now without the 8th overall pick.
No, which is. You got to consider it's
not crazy.
No, yeah,
absolutely not crazy.
Tyler Bertuzzi in this year's 8th overall pick.
I don't think Chicago wants to get older though, right? Oh, whoa, Bertuzzi and 8th.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm literally just trying to
that is
throw out a bar.
Value wise, that is probably around what Chicago's going to be looking at.
If Bertuzzi is extended, then definitely not. But if Bertuzzi's definitely not coming back. That's tough.
Now it gets into the question of, does DeBrincat score 40 without Patrick Kane? I think he probably gets close, but I think Kane definitely helps those numbers. I think DeBrincat can absolutely score
we'll
on his own.
We'll get Patrick Kane too. Let's just bring them all.
Let's get weird.
Yeah.
It would be very cheap on the cap.
Yes. Yeah. It would only cost like $5 million.
The other problem, though, is the Red Wings don't really have someone like Patrick Kane, right? So
you would essentially be hoping that future state Red Wings can offer the same kind of support that DeBrincat's getting right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I always tend to err on the side of caution, which is to not do it. And, if you want a goal scorer, I'm not saying Kemmel or Lekkerimäki are going to be anywhere near the goal scorer that DeBrincat is. They could maybe get in the ballpark. But that's when you factor in, you get 3 years of an entry-level contract. They're 6 years younger. Is 80% of Alex DeBrincat for an extra 6 years worth it? Probably.
If you're moving big assets for DeBrincat, that means you're moving the team forward aggressively this offseason.
Yeah, like DeBrincat makes a lot of sense for a team, a hypothetical New Jersey, who their benchmark is, we are making the playoffs this damn season. And we are going for a cup within 3 to 4 years.
Philadelphia. Come on down.
I would be surprised if they're sniffing around.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be a pretty funny move.
Given their mentality, it makes sense to move the 5th overall pick for DeBrincat. I wouldn't if I was them, but like the state of mind they're in, it makes sense.
Okay, let's get into the last phases of this episode, and we're going to start by taking a look at some updated betting odds, courtesy of our sponsors, the FanDuel Sportsbook. Let's start with the Stanley Cup playoffs. So right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning are down 2-0. So straight up, the Colorado Avalanche are a minus 600 favorite to win the Stanley Cup. Tampa Bay is a plus 500 underdog. Are you taking Tampa Bay there at all?
They've come back down from 2-0 once in these playoffs already. I don't think the Colorado Avalanche are anywhere near the New York Rangers, but they've already done it. It's not bad value for something that they have very recently accomplished.
Up 2-0 in the Cup Finals against most other teams, I would say, oh yeah, absolutely. You take that team every time. You know, it's minus 600, so it's not big long shot odds, but at the same time, you're like, you've gone halfway there on the hardest thing to do in hockey. But if you have to pick one team where they're playing against, where you're like, that gives you pause, it's the Tampa Bay Lightning, because they've done it twice before.
If it was literally any other team in the playoffs that they were playing in the finals, I'll even include the Eastern Conference teams, I would say I would put some money down on that. But since it's Colorado Avalanche, who did not look like they can lose again, it's very hard to take a bet now.
Yeah, we did not mention that Colorado is 14-2 in the playoffs right now. I mean,
teams don't even do that in the regular season.
Yeah. Okay, well then let's take a look at the Conn Smythe, because with Colorado having such a dominant performance,
that's what you bet on. You bet on the Conn Smythe.
Cale Makar.
You bet.
Cale Makar is a minus 190. He's the favorite, but minus 190 is like,
because he's the favorite. Because he's so obviously the favorite.
I take Cale Makar there without a doubt.
This is one of those bets you got to get in as soon as you can, because those odds are only going to get worse as it goes on.
If the Colorado Avalanche win 2 more games in any fashion, unless it goes to 7, and like it goes to 7 by Tampa Bay winning 3 straight games, and Colorado has to like miraculously pull it out, and Cale Makar's awful in every remaining game in the series, that's the only way I see him not winning the Conn Smythe right now.
Yeah.
Like McKinnon's behind him at plus 370, and I can see that happening if he's a hero, but it's Cale Makar's trophy to give away at this moment.
Yeah. Honestly, the play with Cale Makar might be wait till after game 3. If Tampa wins that, maybe his odds drop a little, and then you get in.
Yeah.
That might be the play.
I don't know. With Moritz Seider, it was the earlier you got in, the better.
And that's my thinking with Makar too, because if Colorado wins game 3, his odds are going to be like minus 400 probably, or something crazy like that. So
I think the ship has sailed on betting for the Conn Smythe. I think you needed to do it before the series started, before things started to sort of settle. I mean, if you wanted to put money down right now, it is Makar's to lose.
You can always have that Cup final YOLO bet. Like when O'Reilly won it, he wasn't really in consideration for the Conn Smythe, but he had such a huge Cup final against Boston that he ended up winning it. I'm just saying, the way the first 2 games have went, if you think Tampa can drag this out to a 7, but Colorado can still win, YOLO bet Val Nichushkin, because he's been money the first 2 games.
Plus 2,300.
I mean,
Nichushkin's going to cash out his next contract.
I know. You put like $10 on Val Nichushkin right now. Like, understanding, like, the odds are plus 2,300 for a reason.
Yeah.
But it's not the craziest thing in the world, because if Makar's been reasonably quiet in the first 2 games, like, he scored the 6th and 7th goal in a 7-0 win last game, and I think he had 1 assist in game 1. Yeah, if Tampa turns this into a dogfight and Nichushkin continues playing the way he is, maybe.
Okay, how do it think the rest?
What's Darren Helm? Sorry,
Darren.
There's no way he's
they're
even
still calculating that number.
Yeah, Darren Helm's not on there. It would be too automatic. It'd be free money for anyone who bets, because obviously he's going to win it. Take a look at the rest of the Stanley Cup Finals. Let me know what you think is going to happen, like sequentially for the rest of the games. Like game 3, Tampa wins. Game 4, Colorado. Game 5, Colorado. Like, how do you think it's going to shake out?
I think Tampa takes game 3. I think Colorado takes game 4. And then I have a hard time envisioning Colorado losing on home ice in game 5.
That's plus 500. That's the second most likely option.
I honestly have no idea, and I feel like I'm going to guess and say it's wrong.
The way it's gone, it might not be crazy to just say Colorado games 3 and 4.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, if I'm going to try and not big brain this, let's just say they sweep the finals.
That is, that's the favorite. That's plus 270.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Sweep is the favorite right now at plus 270 because, man, it was a 7-0 win.
Okay, then my value bet here is Tampa takes game 3, Colorado takes game 4, Colorado gets complacent on home ice in game 5, and then bears down for game 6.
I was going to say, yeah, I can see this going Tampa, Colorado in 6 games.
That seems...
That's a plus 1,600. And that's...
Really?
Yeah, that's...
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're really bearish on Tampa. Eh?
They just got beat 7-0.
Yeah, but that's one game. That's worth one game.
I know. But that's maybe where you find the value. Okay. Let us know what you do if you're taking a look at that series, and we'll be back almost the end of the season, so almost the end of our little betting odds segments here. That was one of the last ones. So thank you to the FanDuel Sportsbook for sponsoring that segment. And why don't we get into some overtime questions here, starting with our Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast if you want to join the Dub Club and support the show, especially as we're going through the off season, especially as we're running into more profiles as we seek to improve the show, keep it going even after the Red Wings are done playing, do things like celebrate Moritz Seider's hopeful impending Calder Trophy win. That's all thanks to them. So Winged Wheel Podcast, patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast if you want to join the Dub Club. Okay. Hockeytown Racing Academy says, what's the goal of the year from a Red Wing?
Like in terms of just crazy goal?
Just goal of the year.
Oh man. There's some candidates. My immediate gut reaction is Bertuzzi clowning Victor Hedman, pulling it through his own legs and walking in on ripping on Vasilevsky.
First game of the year.
Yeah, I mean,
I loved Moritz Seider taking advantage of the space that he got in OT against Buffalo.
Yeah,
and using his reach to put it up.
One. Even the 1-T against the Islanders, in OT, I don't think we talk about enough.
Yeah. I mean, there's a serious case in terms of just pure hype for one of Jordan Osterley's clutch goals. It's got to be up there. Maybe not the goal of the year, but yeah, we're looking at a reality where Jordan Osterley had one of the goals of the year for the Red Wings this season.
And like, they're both like, yeah, you could make a case.
Yeah.
The Red Wings didn't have a ton of like the crazy individual skill goals this year, but there was a good amount of hype goals. Lucas Raymond's hat trick goal against Chicago. Any one of the goals, like getting close in the comeback against Toronto that fell just short. Everybody was losing their minds at those moments.
Okay. Connor Dukes says also Hockeytown Racing Academy said congratulations. Thank you very much. And to all of you who said congratulations, thank you. Also to all of you on Twitter, your comments were very kind, and I appreciate you telling me that I had nice nails. That was funny. The picture I posted was of the ring on Mel's finger.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, cause whenever you posted that tweet, it didn't come up on my timeline when I was on Twitter.
And, I don't know. We didn't have, our friend was taking pictures. He's a photographer, but he needs time to edit and send them to us. Everyone will get the gist, and everyone's like, I like your nails, Ryan. I'm like, thank you. I'm very delicate and beautiful.
You're not wrong, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Connor Dukes says, happy Father's Day. Who do you think made up the best father-son duo in sports, not just hockey?
In sports? Oh, man.
I feel like there's a lot in baseball here.
Yeah, the one that immediately came to mind was the Griffeys.
Yes. The Griffeys are like the hallmark of...
And the fact that they played together and they had that moment where Junior stole a pop fly away from Senior.
Which is hysterical.
Loved it.
That's the moment you would hope for when your son makes the big leagues with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. This one is from our good friend Joseph Fournier, who's under Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, says, hey there, fellas. What we do know is that Yzerman likes high scale and high ceiling players, even if they are risks. If the consensus top 5 are picked and then Savoie and Nazar are taken, then who would be the next high scale, high ceiling player left? This is an earnest question. I honestly don't know. I really get the sense that every other forward is like a third line at best, and we'll end up with a Korchinski or Matejchuk. I won't be upset with that, though.
No, I think for me, the next two that would fall on that list would be Kamel and Gauthier. Those are the two that immediately jump to mind because I can see pretty high ceilings for both of them. I think Lekara-Maki probably deserves to be in that conversation as well. And obviously we just talked about Lambert having all the tools in the world. We'd be remiss to not mention him. As much as I like Korchinski, Matejchuk, and Minchikov, I don't see their ceiling being crazy high like some of these forwards have, even though I can see them a reality where they're all very, 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 very good. And well worth an eighth overall pick. But yeah, like Kamel and Lekaramaki have the potential to be like 30, 40 goal scorers. Gauthier has the potential to be like a very, very good number 2 center.
I think I agree with you, but I would put Minchikov in terms of a high ceiling player. I think there's a lot to him.
The fact that he's a late birthday concerns me.
Yeah. Parents, make sure your kids are early birthdays so Brad leaves them high on his draft rankings.
Yeah, I know. I screwed my own son. Mika's May, that counts, right?
Yeah, that's true. Jake Nagy says, if you know Marco Kasper would be a career 2C, never a first-line player, but never a bottom 6 guy either, would you still roll the dice on a guy like Frank Nazar or Matt Savoie, or stick with Kasper?
I really like Savoie and Nazar. Like, I really like those two. I'd have a hard time. Like, I get the appeal to Kasper, and I think I'm probably selling him short, not including him in those high-ceiling guys, because, like, there is skill there with Kasper. Like, I think when people and us and everybody talks about him as like, maybe he doesn't have the highest ceiling, it's like, oh yeah, well, he's just like a gritty guy. No, he can make plays. He can't do some of the like truly ridiculous things that a Savoie and a Kamel and a Nazar can do. But no, my preference would still lie with a Savoie or a Nazar.
If Kasper is in this hypothetical, if Kasper is a guaranteed 2C for his career.
But like what level of 2C? Pius Suter's a 2C right now.
I'm going to say like 2C, like an acceptable 2C. Like
give me a name. Give me an NHL player name.
I don't like.
Give me a guy.
Say he's a 2C on Toronto
right now.
Yeah,
he's John Tavares.
He's playing. He's a 2C on a playoff team. He's a 2C on a team that is winning a playoff round or 2 on average. To me, I take that at pick 8 every time. I don't care about other ceilings. If you can guarantee
Ryan
getting a second
Nugent-Hopkins.
line. I'm taking that. 8th overall, I'm taking it. I don't think you can afford to pass that up if you're the Red Wings. Like, we talk about ceilings, but the thing we have to remember is ceilings, you almost never reach it fully. Sometimes you do. Moritz Seider is a great hallmark that we're looking at all the time of that example. But
yeah, if you're guaranteeing Kasper could be at the level of a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I probably do that. But understanding that I think Nazar and Savoie ceiling is higher than that. But that's a really good guarantee.
Mo Dixon Cider says, hope you're all having a great summer. Would love to see some golf content on YouTube from you guys. This is absolutely Evan. This is your alt. 100%.
You think I would subscribe to our Patreon to do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would not.
I made you put your phone away because you were watching golf on silent.
You thought I put my phone away, did you?
That's been in his lap the whole time. How have you not picked up on that?
There was 0% chance.
Who's winning?
It's over.
Who won?
Matt Fitzpatrick.
Congratulations.
That was not who I wanted to win.
Oh, too bad.
I've never heard of him, so good for him.
They go.
He has braces, so.
Hell yeah.
Poor guy. Says, I saw a post about a potential trade for Leon Draisaitl. What is a realistic return the Red Wings would have to send?
I saw that trade proposal. Not that.
You're not talking about that trade without multiple of Cider, Raymond, Larkin, Bertuzzi, 8th overall, like multiple of those.
Multiple. Ryan's not. Pick the most valuable and the third most valuable out of those, and that's probably what Edmonton's asking.
It almost doesn't make sense. Like,
no,
the trade almost doesn't make sense for either team.
No, it doesn't. It literally does not make any sense for either team. There are teams that should absolutely try to trade for Leon Draisaitl. Detroit's not one of them. Understanding how ridiculously good Leon Draisaitl is. But the Red Wings would have to gut so much of their core for one guy that it's still somehow a step backwards.
When's he at UFA?
2-3 years?
Oh, okay.
It's not that long.
So that's what you wait for.
I'd rate the extra year for McDavid, but
Gingerbeard Man says, congrats on your engagement, Ryan. Thank you. Says, this one is for all of you. What is the worst trade and free agent signing that the Red Wings have made since you have been a fan? What's the best?
Eric Cole?
Oh, no, there's definitely worse trades than that.
I don't know. It's the Kyle Quincy one sticking out right now.
That's the one that immediately jumped to mind.
David Legwand was not good.
In terms of signings, I don't know. I think it's for me is I feel like I was way too like this is the guy where I was way too hard on him. But every time they signed Jonathan Ericsson, I was like, oh my god, why?
Are we talking about like an unrestricted free agent that came into Detroit, or just the worst contract they signed?
Worst contract.
Abdelkader. Nobody's close.
Abdelkader's was bad.
Nobody's close.
It's still technically on the books.
Yeah. Nobody's close to that one.
Thomas Vanek even really worth doing? I can't even remember what his cap.
They paid him nothing.
That's
so
what I thought. I thought it was pretty low.
Yeah.
He had that weird like fake slap shot shootout move that always worked. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, honorable mention to Stephen Weiss as well.
Okay. A Guy Persons says, with Avs elite power forward Darren Helm being a free agent, do you think he'd be a good pickup for the Wings in the offseason?
God, please no.
We could use a player with the speed and hitting power like him.
You don't just cup winners don't just grow on trees, guys.
He was a cup winner when he was in Detroit, man.
Multiple cup winners don't always grow on trees.
Oh man. Hey, look,
I hate it here.
Darren Helm, I actually think a league minimum salary, 4th line / 13 forward. Darren Helm has a spot on these Red Wings. Wouldn't hate it. Love the guy. Would love to see him back in Detroit. It's meaningful to the fans. But you have to understand his production is part of the team he's playing on. You take away the Colorado.
He has 2 goals in these playoffs, doesn't he?
Well, they're sick goals, though.
Oh, they were.
One was quite clutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He has a habit of that in the playoffs. It's just the problem the Red Wings aren't going to present that opportunity for him.
Yeah, there's space for him, but another team is going to give him money. There's not really the bottom of the Red Wings lineup is already clogged up enough as is, where they don't need to be bringing in the Darren Helm types. It's not really of value to the team right now. They let him walk for a reason, but I can't tell you how happy I am to see him succeed.
Yeah, very much.
Okay. We have to get to the Patreon exclusive. I haven't had an exceptionally long weekend, so I need to try to find some time to sleep at some point tonight. So we're going to wrap up this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast. We are going to be with you midweek. Thank you all so much personally for your very kind words. Mel and I sincerely appreciate it. Doing some free ads here. Don't kill me, Evan. But Frank's in Uptown Waterloo and
Where I got crystals, right?
Yeah?
Yep.
They were amazing.
They are really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll second that recommendation.
I was a blubbering mess through the whole process, and they walked me through it.
Not worth telling on air, but I actually got a funny story about that after.
Perfect. And the Walper Hotel and TWH Social helped to make it a very special
Oh, you
day
did it there?
Yeah. Well, no, I did it in Victoria Park. And then we went there after and had a bunch of friends together to like celebrate. And then we stayed the night at the Walper. We brought Abby because it's dog
Our
friendly.
invite must have got lost in the
Yeah,
mail.
I could scatter. No, I had to make it under.
It's all right. I was busy. I sat in my hot tub for 2 hours by myself.
That's okay. I was alone at home watching Jurassic Park.
It was under the guise of celebrating a job, like going permanent at my job, which happened like months ago, and it was in the group chat of friends there. So that's how that all got planned.
That's a terrible reason, but
yeah,
at least it worked.
She did see.
Yeah, because he couldn't have sent us a text message on the side. By the way, be here at this time.
Yeah,
yeah, my schedule is quite full.
Yeah, it's okay though. I really like Jurassic Park. It is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, my take home French fries that I
those are good, man.
Well, I had to get them again because I didn't get to eat them last time.
I ate your sandwich. I didn't invite you out.
Did you like? Yeah, you eat my sandwich. Well, first of all, I left it, which is always my mistake because I leave my takeout everywhere. So you're welcome, but also you're not welcome.
The sandwich was quite good. I'm not a big curry.
I literally told you there was curry aioli on it,
but it was good
Evan,
for.
Don't let him change the subject.
I know.
Look at what he's doing. We know what he's doing.
We'd like to thank these sponsors.
Are you describing to me how good my sandwich was that I left
after not inviting you to his party? Evan, do you realize what he's doing to you? I think you have full carte blanche to just stand up and hoof him right now.
Don't huff
Tempt me with a good time.
Don't huff me. Thank you to all of you, to the sponsors of this podcast, the FanDuel Sportsbook, all of our listeners, our name level supporters on Patreon. It's been nice knowing you. They're about to draw and quarter me. Arjun Shanker, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, Akefer, the Stay Fresh Cheese Bag, Nick Perks, Brett Bailey, Terry, driver of the number 69 Crying Ryan Hannah's Banana Slamma Jamathon, Matthew M. Rice, Brandon M., Carl Brutanen Nanoluski, Chimmy, Citizen High Five, Coyote Season Tickets in Tempe, Craig Kibble, Derek Enstam, DJ Denton, Doesn't Tuesnit, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Greach, Helm was held back by Blashill, Hassam Al-Qassem, I'd Leave My Wife for Cider, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Kalen Wood, King Tone, Kyle Hashman, Marcus, Matt McKay, Matthew Guess, Nicholas Fritz. Oh my God, don't eat that, Brad. What are you, a child? Jesus, don't eat boogers. What the hell? R.A., Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, Sean Levine, Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, Zach Spring, Sam Bankson, Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, Adam, Now I Finish Better Than Ernie, Antonio Gracias, Babe Landeskog, Connor Leighton, Dave W., Evans Socktan, Evans Parking Garage, Evans Bingo Card, James Laporte, Jeremiah Dobo, Jeremy Brocker, John Evans, JM Rhapsody, Josh Yelton, Justin and the Angry Mob, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Matt Keeler, Matt S., Maximilian Cheesebags, our new corporate sponsor whose product is dear to my heart. They're called The Hair Club for Men, and they do God's work. Read. Papa Woody, Puck Norris, Revi DeLuca, Trevor Pevovar. Why, Ryan? Why? Zach McCann, driving range superstar, and Z-Grass is always greener. Thank you all so much, and we will see you midweek.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.